understanding of what unity is and faith, what faith is. And the place to work on, refine our entrance, our take on how we perceive the unity, meaning the unity of the world, the unity of everything, and what we believe in, generally speaking. Okay. So basically, education of kids, education of our own selves, education of the nations around us, it's all starting in the subject of unity and faith, and what we want to do for ourselves, our kids, and the people around us. We want all of us to have a better idea about unity and better understanding of our faith. It sounds weird, understanding of our faith, but we need to take responsibility. We need to feel responsible. We need to be in charge of what we believe in. We need to know more about it. We need to know more about it, and we need to clean our faith, because it's every person is kind of, you can say, is divided in. There are two things. There is things that you get from above. We are born like that. Every Jew is a believer, son of a believer. We are born like that, and every person and every creature has Hashem in them, and Emunah, faith, is where Hashem is. That's the way you connect to Hashem. The same way you connect with a spoon, with a soup, with a spoon, and with a water, with a cup. The same way we connect to Hashem through Emunah. But that's one part. The other part is that there is work to do. It's the same way that you have to prepare a potato in order to eat it. You have to prepare food in order to eat it. It's true that the food itself comes from Hashem, but you have to prepare it the same way with Emunah. It's something you get from Hashem. We all have Emunah because we all have Hashem in us. That's why we're here. That's how we're here. But we must work to clean, to refine our Emunah, to be pure Emunah. And to be pure Emunah, sometimes we even have pure Emunah without any additional work. But the best life for ourselves is when we live every second with pure Emunah. And in order to purify our Emunah, what is it that makes it dirty, so to speak? The brain. Starting with the brain, then it also goes to emotions. We're filled of many emotions that not necessarily are transparent to our Emunah, are not necessarily bring out our Emunah in the cleanest way. Okay? It comes our life, meaning our connection to Hashem, which is called the Chayei HaChaim, the life of life, the source of life. Roughly speaking, the life comes from Him. It comes to us. So we are alive because Hashem makes us alive. But the way we receive life, the way we perceive life, the way we act upon, you see how it's not always perfect. So that's our work. Yeah, there are layers. There are layers. And the things there are things in the way. Our job is to clarify the job of those things that are in the way, to put them in place, to understand them. It's like we're walking in this world like in darkness. We don't know what we believe. Generally speaking, we believe that it's all Hashem, and it's all perfect, and it's all good, and it's all where it's supposed to be. But we are like in darkness. We touch things and we don't understand what is their connection to the whole, and so on. And that is our job. The reason why it's all the black, the darkness is in our brain and our heart. But also the solution, the job, is to bring Hashem, the Emunah, into our brain, into our emotions. So our brain and emotions will bring Hashem through them. So Hashem is understood. I mean, the concept what we do, what we believe in is understood, and we feel it and we see it in the everyday, and we know what to do, meaning it translates into Torah and mitzvahs, it translates into things to do, and not only to do because it says, but ultimately to be completely in it, because our brain and heart are participating. So that's the beginning. The beginning is to talk about unity in that way. Like we right now we're talking about unity, okay? Because it could be that later on things get complicated, and then maybe we lose our mind. But so that's why we always have to go back to the beginning, to remind ourselves that everything is one, and the simple understandings of how it's one. So it's like, in other words, that's the beginning of education. That's the beginning of educating ourselves. So statement number one, everything is one. Okay, but how? The chidush of Chabad is the how. That's why in the beginning of the Kitur Amorim it says, Ki karov elecha davar meod. So it's very close to us to keep Torah mitzvot and to love Hashem and all of that and fear Hashem. What is the whole book for? The Alter Rebbe says, yeah, but how? How is it close to you? So the same thing here. How? Everything is one. So subject number one, or answer, part of the answer is that the world, like how the world became to be. Okay, basically looking at the source, looking at the root. It's like you're looking at a tree, and you see that a tree has different sides. You have east, west, south, north, up, down. And then you have fruits that look this way, another way. You have leaves, you have branches. It seems like multiplicity. But contemplate. Remember how it all came from one seed. Look how it's all right now connected one to the other. How the word tree makes it all generalize all into one self. And there are levels in unity. You can say that the tree as it is right now is one. The leaf and the fruit is one, because the leaf comes to protect the fruit. Okay, and the fruit is the fruit of the leaf. The leaf can be proud in the fruit because it's his product as well. It's his thing. So it's one. But superficially, if a person is really narrowed, he's like going to say, no, wait a second. That's a leaf and that's a fruit. I don't see the unity over here. So you have to itbonenut. Itbonenut, it means to open yourself up and to look, to take off layers and to see how it might be that a leaf and a fruit are two different things, but go a step inside and realize that the fruit and the leaf are part of one tree, and they all just branches, just two details that expresses one thing. And then you can go even deeper. You can say the tree. Just look at a tree, okay? And say, there is a tree over here. I don't even use different names for each one of the details. There's a tree. And you can say there is a root. There is a root that it's all the whole tree based on, and so on. Okay, so you can go and you can find how it's all one. Essentially, the levels of unity goes to the level to a depth where there is no appearance even of a separateness at all. For example, like it says in chapter 32 in Tanya regarding to Am Yisrael. You know, Am Yisrael, one of the things is there are brothers, but not just regular brothers, but brothers the way they are in the mind in the brain of the father before the father took them out of himself. So think about it. Think about a family, a set of kids but before the father even got married, let's say, meaning they were there, they were in him. you couldn't say there are two different things, there are five different things. It's one. Or think about a puzzle before you cut the puzzle. It's one picture, you don't even think it's different pieces. And then it's been cut to different pieces, but sticking with the original thought of that whole puzzle, that whole chunk of pieces is actually one. When you look at it like that, it's before the shvirat kelim, it's before the breaking of the vessels. The puzzle is like the breaking of the vessels. Before the breaking of the vessels, when you look at it like that, you are walking around in this world, you're walking around, you're doing this puzzle with an inside feeling, that a convincement, understanding, experience that everything is one. So you have beautiful life. You know exactly what to do. Your hands are guiding you of how to do the puzzle, because you have an essential seed of experience in your inner self that everything is one already. Now it's just a matter of revealing it in the reality. Okay? But from time to time, again, we have to go back to refresh this experience, because as we get in the midst of things, we tend to feel that there are separate pieces over here. There's no connection one to the other. That's why we have to refresh, and that's why we say Shema every day, at least twice a day. We have to refresh that memory that everything is one. Havaya echod, everything is one. So, so how did the world created? Going back to the beginning, we know from the Bereshis, from the book of Genesis, the world had been created through speech. It says that Hashem spoke the world into existence. So,
yes, I'm sorry. So before Hashem spoke the world into existence, there was nothing?
When we do it bonenut, when we pay attention to something, the ability of the brain, it's miraculous, it's wondrous. How it's not just looking at speech, but in general, when you look into something, you're supposed to kind of take a step back and look at the whole thing. So, what does it mean to look at the whole thing? Let's say we spoke about speech. So speech is the point. But what was before the speech? What the speech led to? What came after? What the speech caused? It caused the beginning of something, but it came from something. Okay? And then width is more details about speech itself. Okay? So there is height. Where did it come from? There is length. Where is it going to? There is width. More details about it. Just details. More expanding about the subject. And there is also, there's like also like all of the sides. But so when you hear speech, right away, what do you hear? If there is speech, there is someone that speaks. And if there is someone that speaks, we know that before speech, there is thought. There's no speech without thought. There's no speech. That speech is a result, is a continuation from a thought. And again, a thought and speech are a continuation of a certain self that's there. Now, what happens before the speech? Before the speech is there in the thought, and the thought is there is hosted in the self of that person, of that individual. Okay? Before the speech, it exists, but it exists when what you are about to say is before you saying it. It's in a state of it exists, but in a state of a non-existent. It's a non-existent state. What you're about to say, you didn't say it yet. It's in your thought, so it exists in your thought, but it doesn't. It's a non-existent state. What does it mean? It absolutely exists, but it doesn't have a separate existence of its own. Meaning, for example, I have a plan in my mind. I have a plan. I want to do something. But I didn't say anything. You know, my kids, for example, I try never to say to my kids that we're going to do something right before we actually do it. Why? Because a lot of times things are changing. But then if I said it already, they're going to come to me that you said it. And even I'm going to say, listen, I just said maybe. Maybe, not maybe, they hear for sure, so you have problems now.
So the question is, what does it mean, Hashem's thought? We still have a brain, and so you can say the thought exists somewhere there, but since Hashem has no physicality, so...
It's a good question. The answer to that question is like this. There is a pasuk, it says like this. Ki lo machshevotai machshevotechem. That's what the pasuk says. Meaning, my thoughts are not your thoughts. What's the difference? The Alter Rebbe explains. Our thoughts is like you said, we already have a physical container, a physical competent place to hold the thought, a competent tool for that. That's us. Hashem, when Hashem projects a thought, along with that thought, He projects the mind to have that thought in. That's the difference between our thoughts and Hashem's thoughts. In other words, when we think about something, it's spiritual. When Hashem thinks about something, that He thinks about becomes a reality. Basically, this reality is first is a thought. As we speak, this is Hashem's thought, and then there are two types of realities. One, that Hashem just thought about it but didn't say it yet. And the other one is that on top of thinking it, Hashem also said it. What's the difference? Like I said with my kids, you know, as long as I only thought that, I didn't tell them, or my wife even. Actually, my wife is different. You can speak, it's like you. But the kids, it's already a second, it becomes like physicality. So as long as I didn't say it, it exists. But it exists in a non-existent state. When I said it, it exists in an existent state. What does it mean existent? It means separateness. It means that even now that I'm going to say, you know what, I don't want to do it. I said I'm going to do it, but right now I don't want to do it. But my kids are going to tell me, you said you're going to do it. Okay, so let's do it because I said so. You know, basically I extracted from I took out for myself something, and now I'm obligated to it. So it means that it became a separate existence. It became something else other than myself. Now it's all on one hand it's just an analogy, but on another hand it's an accurate analogy, meaning that that's the way it is. So why it is important that we're going to say it's an analogy? It's an analogy because we have to always say it's an analogy, but it's an accurate analogy. If you're not going to say it's an analogy, we think that Hashem is a person. Okay, so we always have to remember that it's an analogy. But on the other hand, it's an accurate analogy. Everything about it is accurate. It's accurate. The reality is that Hashem spoke the reality into existence. And not only spoke, but Hashem speaks the reality into existence. Which means the reality, as we can see it, is looks like apparent as a standalone thing. So now let's go to the, Hashem. There's nothing but Hashem, as we know, and then the question arises. But there is a reality. There is something else. There is something else. There is here. There is a reality besides Hashem. Okay, but our Jewish faith come and tell us. We say it every morning. Atahu ad shelo nivra haolam, atahu mi shenivra haolam. We say it every morning. You are the only one before the creation, and which is very simple to understand. There's nothing besides you before the creation. But how it's the same you with no difference, nothing changed after the creation of the world. I mean, there seems to be a difference. And we are commanded to believe and remember every day that the same. How can that be? So one piece of that Lego is understanding the concept of speech and how it's in relation to the person. By a human being, when a person speaks, let's say you spoke in the court. Everybody heard you. You had witnesses. You had judges over there. It's definite. You can't go back. It became a reality of its own. Your speech became a reality of its own. It became an existence of its own. It became like a separate creature. You created something. You can't say, I didn't say it. There were witnesses, there were people. You said it. You're going to pay for it. You're going to stand behind what you said. Okay? Maybe, if there is only one witness, let's say, or it's a key, whatever, maybe you can lie. But it still creates a reality, by the way, even that. But officially, from the Torah, we have certain levels of, so I'm taking the extreme. Let's say you're standing in court and you say something, so you have witnesses, you have judges, you said it. Okay, sane people, not just insane people that maybe make it up, but people that are considered sane, I'm taking the extreme. But reality is, once you said it, you created a reality. So for a person, it is definite. You created a reality, but look. For Hashem, it's a bit different. But first, let's review something in here. Before you said it, it wasn't a reality. It didn't exist. Now that you said it, it's a definite reality. So before you said it, there was only you. And the speech were included in you, were part of you. You couldn't say there is the speech and there is you. There's me. Now that you open your mouth, you took out of yourself, you took out something. That something that you took out of yourself became a separate existence. Like you exist, it exists. It's two. Two things exist now, you and it. Two things. Okay? So that's how creation works, basically. By the way, in Hebrew, the word creation, it's not creation, in Hebrew it's really yetzirah. To create is to... But in Hebrew it's ex nihilo. Bria, it means something out of nothing. Something out of nothing, which is really nothing out of something. But anyway, the point is that there is something. There is a Shem. There is a person for that matter. And then he brings something out and becomes a separate existence. Now, how by Hashem is different? First of all, it's an accurate analogy, but it's an analogy. So it's only an analogy, so that means it's something different. First of all, if Hashem spoke the world into existence, once Hashem spoke the world into existence, so the world exists. The world does exist. There are a lot of people in the world that they believe that the world doesn't really exist. And that comes to help them in do whatever they want to do, because the world is not, things are not real. So they allow themselves to do whatever they want. So first of all, no. We see that there is court, there is justice. If you said it, you said it, it became. If you did something, the world exists. And it says in the Torah that the world does exist. And there is a lot of Maimorim, that Hasidus, that explains that the world does exist. It's not like the world is a non-existent state. No, the world does exist. Because the word has been spoken. So it officially exists. The word officially exists. So everything, okay. The difference between a human being and Hashem is that a human being is a human being. Once he said something, and it became a real existence, so then the creation of that thing and the existence of that person, they match each other. They become, both of them exist. But when it comes to Hashem, Hashem is eternal. When it comes to Hashem, we speak about layers. Layers, it means, or in layers, but in Kabbalah, it's called makifim. Makifim. It means like this. It means that Hashem exists, and since Hashem occupies all space, there's nothing but Him. So now when Hashem speaks, where is this speech go? If Hashem occupies all space, when a person, I occupy my space, that's limited space I occupy. So when I speak to here. I speak to you. So, okay. But Hashem occupies all existence. So when Hashem speaks, where does it go?
It's talking to itself.
That's one thing, but where does it go? When you make noise, for example, so it makes echo. So it hits the mountains around, let's say, the walls. Huh? So you hear echo, comes back from the wall. But in Matan Torah, it says there wasn't any echo. Why? It came from all sides, but not in a way that Hashem is here and He speaks and it's coming back from the mountain. That's what we know about Matan Torah. When Hashem spoke, everything spoke at the same time. It came from everywhere because it's all Him. So where does the speech go to? Where is a place? Where there could be a place that will receive that speech? That will where is the place that can?
Is there an empty space?
Is there an empty space that the speech can go to and become a reality of its own in that place? So first of all, the place itself is a result of speech, or maybe a result of thought. Here we have levels also, meaning from the speech to the thought, from the thought to the speech, there are certain things that are more like outspoken, and there are certain things that are more implied, but everything is spoken. And everything is thought of. Now, this is where we come in. We can always, we can always bring new depths from Hashem into the world. We can reveal higher makifim, meaning higher lights from thoughts into speech, or from Hashem's self to reveal in the world, and which is ultimately to make a dwelling place for Hashem in the world. It means to take the highest makif, the highest level and to reveal it in the lowest level, which is meant to be this way. But I don't want to jump. So the way it works is like this. So what's the answer? Where is the place that Hashem spoke into? So we say like this. In the actual. So first, the speech of Hashem obviously goes without saying. The speech of Hashem obviously is standing in Hashem still, in Hashem, because there's no place without Hashem. So the speech obviously stands in Hashem. But we said that that's the difference between thought and speech. That thought stands in you; it's still in you, and speech goes out of you. So that's why it's a mashal. That's why it's an analogy. Because the analogy goes like this. And let me explain how it works by Hashem. The analogy goes like this. When we speak, we take it out of ourselves. But is it? Or it's just an illusion? That part is what's the illusion over here? If I'll take a whiteboard, and I'll use that whiteboard as an analogy to Hashem, so to speak. Like the white occupies all space, because everything is white. And then, you're looking at the board, you're looking at the whiteboard, and I'm gonna make a dot, a black dot, somewhere on the board. Right away, our attention will go to the extraordinary, to the different, to the difference. We're going to look at the black dot. It's gonna capture us. Now, the dot is out of the white. Is not the white. It's out of the white. It's out of the everything. It occupies the space. You know where you see it in life, by the way? When someone has something happened with him, so it becomes very involved, becomes emotionally involved, and it occupies him completely. Something personal, something, that you go through. It takes you all into it. But if you ask the person, someone else, I have a problem. What's the problem? I have a problem in my leg, let's say, and listen, you're not going to believe, something is going to, they're going to, whatever. The person is so occupied, it takes him the whole self of. But if you take it like percentage-wise, and you say, wait a second, your leg is percent of you, let's say. This part of the leg is percent of your whole self. What about the other 99%? What about all of the white? So, the person, by nature, we don't think like that. And that's what we call tzimtzum. the black dot, it's going to be like the tzimtzum. Our attention is going to right away go to the dot, to the thing. It's going to occupy the other 99% are going to be like they're not there. That's the tzimtzum. Okay? Now, more than that, the dot sits on the white. The white didn't go anywhere. The white is right there. It's under the dot. Now let me ask you more than that even. So actually there is 100% white. It's just that there is one place where only in an external manner, only in the external side, you see black and not white. But the inside, the white is under the black. Still, let me ask you on that. Where the black came from? Actually, black, how do you make black? All colors come from white. How do you make black? From white. Because what is black if not just brighter white? Black is brighter white. If white is brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, it becomes black in your eyes. Like the sun. Too much light becomes black. So actually, even the black is white. It's all white. It's all Hashem. But it's a method of how it's done. That's how it's done. So now let's go back to the speech. The speech, Hashem speaks the world into existence. So the world exists by itself. It's like the black dot. The world, but if you look deeper, you're saying, wait a second. But even after the speech is still Hashem. It's still Hashem. So what we got over here? What we got from here? The speech is an existence to itself. It's a real existence. But with its boinus, you realize that there is still nothing but Hashem. The speech is still in Hashem. It's in the white. It's still in the white. Comes from the white. The black is essentially white. It's all Hashem. But it is challenging. It is challenging. Because before it was simple. Achduta pshuta, it was simple unity. And now you need itbonenut. You need to look inside. You need to understand how it's one. And that is the mitzvah. There is a mitzvah after the creation of the world. Now we have to think. We have to remind ourselves that the black is also the white, and it's all essentially Hashem. Okay? But it all starts with realizing that there is a challenge.
But there's a problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that the black dot is superimposed on the white and has a thickness to it, even if it's minuscule, right? And so to that extent, it occupies some space that before was empty.
It was white before, and right now is white also.
On top of the white, and that minute space that it occupies was air. But but if Hashem is everywhere, then there isn't any room to be occupied by something else.
But that's the thing.
That it can, because it's air, it can occupy that space. The black dot can occupy
Yes.
that space.
Okay, don't forget again don't forget the black dot is Hashem as well. It's just that it's something that it requires. It's a challenge to look at it this way. But the black dot also didn't come from any other source but the white itself. So that means that essentially the black is white also.
So you're saying at least theoretically a portion of the white turns black. Yeah. And even if it appears to be on it,
yes,
it really is.
It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Okay. But it's real. But it's an illusion. Meaning, now you're going to ask how it became to be. If everything was white, if everything was, what caused something to change? You know how black becomes black? Blacks become black from the white, also in our lives. You know how? Will. You know how it is? They used to say it about women, When you're not interested, they're interested in you. When you're interested, they're not interested. What is it? When you're not interested, you have everything. When you become interested, as you want it more, it becomes harder to get it. Why is it like that? Give me another example, which the Rebbe Rashab gives that example. When you can read a story, go into the story, enjoy the story, no problem. You can even go out of the book 4 hours later, say, what? I just read for 4 hours? Impossible. I can't even read for a second. I read 4 hours. But when you want to when you want to learn for a test and you have a deadline, everything becomes black. Why? Because you want. When you want, it makes it black. So let's look into it in a way. Let's go into it. Let's see. Okay, wait. We'll get okay. So essentially, we have to understand one thing about Hashem. There is, if you want to say where does Hashem enters our reality and our existence? One word: unity. Hashem is all about unity. Now, in unity, you have simple unity, where everything is white. It's simple. When everything is white, when everything is one of the same, it's simple. It's simply one. But if that's what you're all about, unity. So if you're going to have a will, what your will is going to be? You will want to be one in a higher level, and that's gevura. That's I want more. I want more. What does it mean? It means that when Hashem is simply unity, okay, that's nice. It's simple. It's chesed, white, it's chesed. But when the black is also white, meaning it's complex unity, which are essentially simple as well, but it's like that's already an ambition to conquer, that the unity will conquer multiplicity as well. If everything that you are is unity, so your ambition, so your will is to express your unity when there is multiplicity as well. And that's a higher form of unity. It's a higher form of unity. And that's the secret of the world. That's the secret of the creation of the world. That's, in this world, Hashem becomes one in a way that it's multiple things that becomes one. And that is the essential will of Hashem. That's the black dot that comes from the white. There is simple unity, and then there is a will that comes from the white, which is black, the will is black, to Yashet Choshech Sitro, it says that's what it says, Yoshev Beseter Elyon, black, to express unity in a higher way, in a higher level. Higher would be Gevura. It's an expression of Gevura. I want it better. Tov is Yetzer Tov, Tov Meod is Yetzer Hara. Good is it's good inclination, very good is Gevura. It's already, it can be bad. By the way, bad is just a step, it's just a stage. Because when you see the whole picture, it's all good. So bad is actually a step into greater good. Bad is essentially greater good. Yeah.
Could we say that the original dot, the way Hashem creates the world with the original piece of black to basically hide himself, the Simpson, right, that creates the original, about the factory model amount of black or dark. And sinning would make the dark bigger, right? Would make it more covering on the white, then we have to plow through more, right? Sinning basically expands the dot.
Sinning is basically, or avera is in Hebrew. Sin, it means chet. Chet, it means to miss the point, to miss the purpose, to miss the intention. To think that the dot, that the black is the purpose, is the cause of all sins, is the sin of all sins, is to think that the tzimtzum is for a tzimtzum purpose and not for a gilui purpose, not for a greater good. That is the source, the root of all mistakes of people. For example, if you, let's say, if you sit in class, for example, and you feel that you understand everything, and all of a sudden you don't understand anything, and you try to ask and you get no answer. So if you think that the black over here is for black, is black for black, so you're going to leave the class. You're going to say, okay, there's nothing to do here anymore. But if you realize that the black is is deepening. The purpose of the black is to deepen to bring something deeper to you. It's a gap. It creates a space in order to bring you to a higher level. Meaning it's a long explanation that right now you don't understand, but in the end everything will make sense, like a book. So then you stick around, you don't go. We leave Hashem when we feel that Hashem left us, but Hashem didn't leave us. Hashem elevates us to a higher level, and sometimes it's expressed by black. Also, the black, the tzimtzum, the dot, it's always going to be a dot. But the problem is, like we said, the dot captures our attention and makes everything black. When one thing is black, everything is black. It's usually in the emotions, when you feel hungry, let's say. So you've always been hungry, and you're always going to be hungry, and everybody else are probably hungry around you. You can't think how a person that is not hungry thinking when you're hungry. You can't think, you can explain to yourself, you can remind yourself how is it to be not hungry. When you're hungry, it's not good as eating, and when you're eating, when you ate and you said you're good, you can't understand hungry. It's almost like an hour before, an hour after, same thing. When there's black, you don't see the white. You can't see the white. It captures, but it's just a dot. It's just a dot. Anyway, now we understand how it works. Unity. Okay. So we spoke about will. Look, what are we saying? We're speaking about an imaginary, so to speak, person that has will. That first of all is white. First of all, there's nothing but him. And then he has will. What does he want? He wants to deepen his sense of unity. His will create a black dot, which makes everything black. But it's not really everything black. It's just a dot, but it makes everything black. And then the will, I'm skipping in stages, but the will becomes thoughts. Meaning when you want something, you start to think about it. So you're generating different letters, which are expressions of thought, like different thoughts, which essentially are a will to manifest your will. And then part of those thoughts are going to come out as speech. Whatever it is that this person speaks becomes a more real reality, but it's all is still in the white because there's nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. It's all still there. Okay? From this we can also understand that there are levels of letters. There are more spiritual letters. First of all, what is letters? Letters, in Hebrew, letters are otiyot. Otiyot, it means gilui, revelation. Letters are a way to express. You use letters, you use words. Words are combinations of letters. So you use words in order to express something, explicit, to make it explicit, to extract, because essentially it's all one will, and the will comes from the same white, the one white. Black comes from white. The will, keter, will is keter. It's called keter. The keter is black. And we'll learn as we go. We'll learn more about it. Or maybe you have 3 more minutes. So you have letters in the thought. You have letters in the will even. You have letters in speech. As the letters is going from the white, it says that the soul, the white, is considered like the soul of that person. The soul, it says, it's filled with letters. Fills with revelations. And then it goes on to the will. The will the reality, the feel of existence of the letters is much more felt. In the thought, it becomes more of a substance. And then as you go to the speech, it becomes more explicit, more defined, more limited. How do you see, for example, a proof? In your thoughts, you can think many, many thoughts in a shorter time period. When you speak, it's more limited. There are people that can speak very, very fast. But in a speech, it's more limited. Why? Because you have to pronounce every word. You have to give it more care and attention. It matters. This is not that, and this is not that. But in your thought, because it's more spiritual, it's connected, it's more identifies with your soul, with yourself, so it's less limited. The soul is unlimited. Okay? So what is it? What is this whole process of a body? What is this will, thought, speech? It's a process of becoming more precise of what you want. The body is a model of a process. It's a model it's a process model of making something from this level of soul, which is above even being called spiritual. It's just everything. There's nothing but that. It's unity, simple unity. To spirituality, meaning thoughts. Thoughts are considered spiritual, relatively speaking. And then into the speech, once you speak it out, it's considered physicality. Physicality is a yesh, yeshus. It's here. So it's a process of making something from the self to will, which is already a form of spirituality, to thoughts, which is spirituality, but it's more tangible, and then to speech, which becomes tangible, and then doing action, which most of our body has to do with, quantity-wise, has to do with the actions. Is to complete, to bring to completion what you have been created. Okay, so the same goes with Hashem, just on a larger scale. We are all of us, we have names, and everything has names. And everything's name is those letters in this big book that Hashem had spoke into existence. And the same way that a book, it's many, many words and letters and words. But eventually when you get to the end of the book, it all becomes one, because it makes sense. So at first, it seems like this letter is one thing, it has its own existence, and then you bring it into a word, and one word unifies different types of letters, and then sentence and so on, and a whole book unifies all of the letters thanks to the light that comes through those letters. And we're going to talk about it, vessels and lights. Okay? So then, basically, it's unity in the creation. But in order to get to unity in the creation, and that's the point of the class, I believe, is to understand the power and to understand the meaning of letters. To understand that once we think in a form of letters, once we read the reality using the method of letters, we have an access to unity. And that's why it's interesting. That's why, they ask, in the world, except for the Jewish people, I'm saying in the other people in the world, there are a lot of emphasis on shows, on, vision. And by Jewish people, we are the nation of books. For us, letters. We so into letters, so into words and letters. Okay? Not just, big shows and like be so expressive, but not in letters wise. Because letters, that's our gate to live life using, to look at everything through its letters, through its words, and then first to understand what is the letters, what defines this particular thing, and how also it's part of a sentence and part of a book, and basically to find its proportion within. Now, it's more than three-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional. Letters are not just one dimension. On the book, it's like one dimension. But it says, it says a book, if you go with a plane, you use a plane, you go above, and you see a cemetery, that's like a book. When you look from above, a book, it's like a cemetery. It's like, but in every letter, it's like a grave. But you know how it is, if you go to a cemetery and you start to look at the names and you start to make some investigation, who are those people? You start to bring it back to life. So using the letters will bring everything back to life. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you're going to go from here to Yesod Mala tomorrow to be able to take any one person that might want to come, or two people to the brother.
I'm not going to be here.
You're not going to be here at all tomorrow. You'll be there.
Yeah.
You'll be there. We'll see you there.